Welcome. My name is Jens Hunhevicz, and this is Paul.
Yeah, my name is Paul. I'm a trained architect, and I'm currently more consulting for AEC companies. But I used to teach at EPFL. That's how I met these gentlemen from ETH. Thank you for having us here today.
Yeah, this project is a bit older. The prototype was actually developed by Bucher, so lots of credits to him. And we will present you now the outcome of this project. Motivation was that SMEs often have it's challenging for them to digitize their core process. They often have fewer resources and expertise, and they make up a big part of the supply chain. So they actually are very important, and there is like this proposal to link the ERP system, the enterprise resource planning system of these SMEs to building information modeling process to integrate better their firm level and external data. And there's been some work on this, but there are still some challenges linking this data at different levels of granularity, and then off-the-shelf solutions are often very hard to tailor to the custom processes of the SME. So they often end up with multiple expensive, not really well integrated tools. And in this project, it was an InnoSwiss funded project, Felix, a facade company approached us to look into this problem and develop some solutions. And we used action research, which is also, the paper is structured around this action research. It's kind of co-developing together with industry prototype, and on the side, writing on the research side, learning about that process.
So exactly, as a semi-custom construction facade manufacturer, this is basically the bread and butter of Felix. So these are the profile catalogs that they design, customized for each project. So that's why architects like them a lot, because they can do their own special, unique design. But the problem when you talk about custom means that it seems very hard from an industry's perspective to systemize a system. So this is basically what was done before. Basically, from bidding to design to production to installation, they needed to reproduce everything, either 2D information, either 3D information. There was no digital continuity within the system. So that's why they hired me back in the days to try to solve this.
So when diagnosing the problem, the wish for better data integration was mentioned. So key terms were like, we want a single source of truth, we want to democratize access over the supply value chain, and this sounds very much like a common data environment approach, but common data environments are more between cross-institutional collaboration and data exchange. So we inspired our solutions by these approaches, and we called them just customized data environment in lack for a better name for this intermediary solution, right? And basically we tried to implement some of their wish list, importing geometric and ERP data, and for example, exporting then automated quantity takeoffs of the panels and so forth. And yeah, the development of the prototype, the technical part is actually not part of that much emphasis on that in the paper, but the high-level technical architecture, it's a web-based platform, so they can log in and they can access the different control components. So it was a very modular architecture, and on the back end we connected to the ERP and Autodesk service platform. At the time was called Autodesk Forge for geometry visualization, and then we had a database that stored user access permission and then the semantics related to the data and the unique object identifier linking the different models.
So yeah, when you talk about facade generation or systemation, how do? You just basically try to do your facade elevations, east, west, north, south, and you just find a way to classify them, unitize them, from the U1 to UX in the vertical, and the horizontal V1 to the VX from the left to the right. This looks very easy, but always need to standardize stuff. And this is then what you do when you are using basically these panels without thickness as a placeholder. because what you need to do is basically quality control of what metadata sits within these panels, right? Where you have obviously on one side quantitative data, which is inheriting from the 3D models, and qualitative data, which is what enables you to then get the proper details for the future panels. So this is, from design to execution, you start with this wireframe, which is the setting of drawings that you get from the architect, then the abstract panels, these placeholders I mentioned before. And this is basically what we had for the CDE, right? So that CDE was just right there. Jens will present it a little more detail after. And then eventually goes from LOD 300 to give to the architects for coordination, and LOD 450 or 500 for execution, right? So that was basically a CATIA-based workflow. And this is, that's the platform we envisioned, with one database that enables users to use it from a 2D/3D perspective as designers, but also from a tables perspective. Jens will talk about this more in detail.
Yeah, so the main purpose of this prototype was not to link directly the different other digital tools that they used, but it was more an intermediary platform that helped visualize in a more easy way the data also to the production people or the ERP people. And for that, they could load these models with these abstracted panels, and they could color them according to different metadata, so related to production, related to their same size, and they could filter them, they could export Excel lists then based on them. And this sounds very simple, but it really helped them more streamline better the process. And then on the one other hand, you had this like table-like environment where they could query the database, they could filter it, and they could also create export the data. And this really helped the people more used to the Excel workflow and the ERP workflow to interact with the data as well. So it kind of enabled the more the visual people in the organization and also the more production-related people.
So absolutely, the most important was obviously to get everybody on board, and I think this is what we are trying to describe here, is that it started with design and fabrication constraints, and we eventually have been able to brought the CDE on site. You have no idea how much, as a facade manufacturer, how you will need to build the client, because you don't even know which panel is already delivered or installed or validated. So thanks to that, we could actually have a direct link with the client saying, like, this is what we already delivered, you have to pay us, basically.
Yeah, it's like the simple property of accessing the plans and like the simple geometric model on site to better understand what panel they are holding at the moment made a big difference. So it's a bit provocative, but we think for like internal SMEs processes, such a customized environment approach seems very modular, low cost. It can be easily targeted to their internal processes. And it's not the goal to replace all the other tools, but may enable the link between the different people in the organization that want to work with that data. And the prototype was it was developed, but it's still basic. I think the geometric functionality could be enhanced. It wasn't able to modify the geometry inside them. It was just importing it and then exporting it again. There can be also more advanced data management. You are all more expert on that. And of course, it needs to be validated whether this also works for other SMEs processes. But I think we found this approach worth sharing. Maybe it inspires you working on this to also think about similar solutions. So yeah. Oh yeah, there is still the Autodesk plugin, and this could be, for example, also replaced with, we have now Compass is an open source viewer we developed at ETH. So you could remove all third-party dependencies and have just a custom solution.